Assalamu alaikum. This is one black man's opinion. Fear is the number one enemy of our community. On June the 22nd, 2000, the day that Shaka Sankofa, formerly known as Gary Graham, was executed on Texas's death row in Huntsville, I was the last person to speak to him in the holding cell. He said some things to me that I will never forget. I still have the pad that I wrote the notes on. He said these words to me. He said, "Brother Muhammad, death is a compliment to life. They make it something to fear so that they can control us." He said, "Non-cooperation with evil is an obligation. To be an effective leader, you must be willing to pay a price." My brothers, my sisters, right now, we find ourselves in the valley of decision. Or should I say, in the shadow of the valley of death. And as a people, we're going to have to make a decision. Do we choose life, or do we choose to continue to suffer, which ultimately leads to death? What I can tell you is that our apathy is leading us to sure death. And that apathy isn't just something that just happened. It is being socially engineered. You see, brothers and sisters, we talk unity, and we have tried to come together, but there's always something that stops us from taking it to where it needs to go, which is sovereignty and independence. And some say it's self-hatred, and that plays a part. But the biggest and number one problem, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teach us when it comes to the black community is fear. The white man is not our enemy. Fear of him is. And I can tell you something. There was a national political convention in Gary, Indiana in 1972, the anniversary of which will be coming up in 2022. And what was brought together in Gary, Indiana were the tree shakers and the jelly makers, or the activists, nationalists, Pan-Africanists cadre of our people, and the political cadre and business cadre of our people. And in a book called The Defeat of Black Power, that talked about that national convention and the attempt to come together with a national black agenda, the defeat of black power was the fact that we, instead of marshaling our individual associations and institutional assets for a full and complete community, full and complete life, we deferred to the political class. Hear me. And when that happened, COINTELPRO went from entrapping or trying to destroy our civic or our civil rights and our black power activists to following our political class into politics, which we fought so hard for the right to vote so that we could put black faces in high places. And what the FBI did is that they just simply followed them into office and set the traps for bribery, public corruption, and white-collar crime. The Holy Quran says it like this: corruption has appeared on the land and the sea on account of that which men's hands have wrought, that he may make them taste a part of that which they have done, so that they may return. So many of our political leaders have now been and are now being caught up in public corruption. And what will happen is the activist cadre, the activist class, will say, what did we fight for? What did we shake all these trees for? If you, the jelly makers, the political and the business class, pick up the apples that we've shaken off the tree, and you don't have enough sense to take care of the activists that have shaken the tree, and you have become so like unto our enemy that you too has now become corrupt. So what happens is that Allah makes you taste a part of what you have wrought so that you may return. I have visited every federal prison on every level with the exception of Supermax. Club Fed, all the way up to Lewisburg. I visited the Texas prisons. I visited the Harris County jails. I can tell you something. Some of the most brilliant people that I've ever met are languishing in the jails and prisons throughout America. Had they had right guidance, had they had proper mentorship, had the political and business class not been so fearful of displeasing their slave masters' children, we could have saved and can save a whole generation. My brothers, my sisters, after 34 years of activism in this city, I can tell you, I've sat at the table with every major deal that has gone on just about in this city. All of the stadiums, the NRG Stadium, Toyota Center, and what was Enron Field was now Minute Maid Field. I sat with the movers and shakers of this city, both white and black. The only exception is the BBVA soccer stadium. I wasn't at the table for that. But I can tell you, the Les Alexanders, though the Drayton McLeans, the McNairs, all of them and their representatives, with the various mayors, city council people, business people, head of the NAACP, Urban League, you name it, all around the table. At that time, Ken Lay and the Enron folk. But you know something? I didn't take any money. When the convention hotel, first convention hotel, was being proposed, I met with both groups. Those who represented, I think it was called the Duddleston group, and another group, I forget that other group. But I met with their representatives. I took no money. And as it turns out, some of our political class got caught up. They say taking bribes to approve one deal or another. I found out later that when the federal indictments were being unsealed, their press was taking a pool that my name would come up as being one of those indicted. This is true. It's what one of the reporters told me. And what she said was, Brother Muhammad, because you went and you endorsed the group that had the most minority participation in terms of business, in terms of vending, in terms of construction, in terms of design and architecture and engineering. We just knew that your name was going to be one of those in the indictment. Well, I didn't take any money. Whatever I am qualified to do because of my experience, my education, is going to be on paper. It's not going to be in an envelope underneath the table. My scope of work will be spelled out. I will submit invoices, and I will receive payment for what I do. This is the way you have to operate, brothers and sisters. But all the stadium deals, the light rail construction, $1 billion worth of light rail construction. I've sat on the management district. I've sat on the rail district. I'm sure plenty of money is changing hands, but it didn't come into mind. Now, I'm not ascribing to myself some kind of righteousness that's above everyone else. I'm not doing that, brothers and sisters. Not by any means. But the question is asked in our lessons. Have you not learned that your word shall be bond regardless of whom or what? And the answer is yes. My word is bond, and bond is life, and I shall give my life before my word shall fail. When you raise your hand and take an oath to protect, preserve, and defend the Constitution of the United States, or the Constitution of Texas, or the laws of the city of Houston, or wherever your locale is, or you and I stand in the pulpit, on the rostrum, on some position of leadership, we have to make our word bond. It's not that we won't make mistakes. It's not that we won't fall. It's not that we are not susceptible. But we can't make excuses when we do. I mean, the scripture asks the question, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? If you're going to follow the master, you have to deny yourself. Pick up your cross, not his. Pick up your cross and follow him. We're in uncharted territory, brothers and sisters. And what I'm here to tell you is this. Is no matter what happens to our business and political class, the activists do not lose faith. Do not get apathetic. Do not become discouraged. We just have to find another way. And the other way is that we can't put all our apples in the political class or the business class in that sense. Because unfortunately, these jelly makers are making jelly for themselves, and they don't know how to support those who are willing to pay the price for all of our people to be free. They're not equitable in the way they distribute the benefits and the burdens of our struggle. We pay the price to support Black Lives Matter as a movement, not the organization, but as a movement, that Black Lives mattered. And we fought like hell. And we looked forward to some kind of public policy that said police reform. The George Floyd Police Reform Act. Where is it? So because it hasn't manifested, now we're going to become quite frustrated and throw our hands up and say, man, I'm through with that. The voting rights is being held up with some arcane rule called the filibuster. And now the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, or those associated with our late great civil rights icon and political servant John Lewis, guess what? It's not being passed. Let me close this podcast, this broadcast, with helping you understand what it is that you're dealing with. There are only three things I want you to remember. Three P's. One, property. Two, power. Three, posterity. Property, power, posterity. The United States Declaration of Independence from Great Britain was signed by 56 property-owning men. The Constitution of the United States was signed by 39 property-owning men. They were white. They were European. They put together the Constitution for their posterity. They didn't see us as part of their prosperity. In this country, if you don't own property, in their case, land and people, you can't sit at the table when power is being decided on who has it and how it's to be used. And if you don't understand what the fight is in over 33 states to take away our right to vote, in 33 states to make it harder for us to vote, if you don't understand why the political machinery is being put in place to keep what will one day be a numerical minority in power, then you're blind. And you're purposely blind because you're afraid. You're afraid, you're fearful to call it like it is. And so, my beloved brothers and sisters, don't lose faith. Don't fall down and become apathetic. Keep your eyes open. This is Fearless, Faithful, Foremost Friday. I want you and I to stand up, straighten up, and step out on our faith. And let us move towards the real meaning of a more perfect union, which is for us to unite one with another and do something for ourselves, or we will continue to suffer the consequences. We want a perfect union, but we want a perfect union with God and one another. This is one black man's opinion. What's yours? I'm Brother Abdul Halim Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum.